two countries that are exception in South America are basically, I'm sorry, I forgot about Ecuador. Ecuador also with Rafael Correa. The two countries that are exceptions in South America are Colombia, which currently is an ally of the United States, and Peru. Despite that, the president of Peru is Alan Garcia, who was famous in the 1980s as a leftist president. Now, how should we understand the left turn in South America? The left turn is basically, as I said, the election of leftist and center-left political parties and political forces. But I think that the phenomenon is more structural. The phenomenon is more structured in three ways, in three basic understanding. First of all, the left turn is the massive popular protest and resistance to the neoliberal globalization in the 1990s. Second, the left turn is also the abandonment of orthodox policies in economy. And third, the left turn is the deepening of the regional integration within a strategical perspective. Now, let me explain very briefly each one of these points. What do we mean by popular protest and resistance to neoliberal globalization in Latin America? Let me give you some examples. First of all, of course, we have the Zapatistas in Mexico. They were the first one to, rise against what is, and to tell things are not going well in Latin America and Mexico, very rich, and most people were losing their jobs. Then we have the Cocaleros, the Cocaleros movement in Bolivia, headed by Evo Morales. We have the Sem Terra in Brazil, very linked to the Partido Trabalhista, the Workers' Party of Lula. We have the Bolivarian movement in Venezuela. All these movements, aimed basically at three things. I'm sorry. First of all, protest against the destruction of the job, protest against the social injustice, which meant the liberalization and the privatization of the economies. Second, the organizing social safety networks to face, the downturn, the social downturns of liberalizing the markets. And third, and the most important perhaps, is changing politics and reforming the state through elections. And what do we mean by this? Where do we see the change in all these protest and resistance movements? The basic change is that there was no revolutionary myth in all this. There was no armed struggle. Democracy was what they're aimed at, and deepening democracy was the major objective of these movements. So we have a new kind of democracy, a higher quality democracy, not only representative democracy, but direct democracy. This is a democracy where the people spoke, and when we say the people, these are the people who were left out of the good news of global neoliberal globalization. I would say that the protest and resistance movements in Latin America is social democracy in action. Second, when we talk about moving away from orthodox economics, this means that first of all, South American countries got rid of the presence and the pressure of international financial organizations. And they re-evaluated the role of the state in political economy. Poverty was back on the agenda, but was back not as a philanthropic issue, not as someone who would give some money to the poor and then that it's over, but was back as a social justice question, which means that the assumption that the social question does not exist of the neoliberals is not true anymore. Wealth redistribution is an issue in Southern American countries. The state also is important in this unorthodox way of thinking the economic policy because of the management of the natural resources. Natural resources are becoming strategic asset in the 21st century. And Latin and South America, from the Amazons to the Southern Pole, is a region where natural resources, from water to clean air to oil, natural gas, and several other things is a vital, is a strategic place for natural resources. Natural resources are very important to develop a sustainable development economics, and also are related to the social justice agenda. Now, when we have states who are careful to sell large portions of territories to international capitalists who come and sometimes buy a whole lake, and this is very true, they buy a whole lake in Argentina, in the south of Argentina, in Chile. When you have social protest against big capitalists who come and take the best part of the natural parks in Argentina, just because in the 1990s some law allowed the capital to invest in this part of the world. This is where the state gets in and intervene, not to defend the capitalist interest, but to defend mostly the national interest, the interest of the people. And finally, the regional integration. When we thought about regional integration in the 90. What we meant basically was the free trade agreement of the Americas, the big market from the northern pole to the southern pole, from Alaska to Tierra del Fuego in Argentina. That was the big project of the Clinton administration in 1994. But the consequences of that big project was that South America at least missed the opportunity of proceeding on to a regional integration of a European model. What has happened from 2003-2004 on is that the idea of the regional integration is different. The idea of a regional integration is more strategic. And we have two perspectives that are not competing with each other, but which are different. The first perspective is a direct confrontation with the FTA project. This is the Bolivarian alternative of the free trade agreement, which is known as the ALBA. The leader of this, Venezuela, Hugo Chavez, he has the money, the oil money, and his rhetoric, his discourse is very radical, is very leftist. Now, the other alternative, the more moderate one, and we might say also the most realist one, is the of the South American, a model but not copied on the European integration model. The difference of the UNASUR, the Union of South American Nations, with the former Mercosur, the South American regional market, is that UNASUR is thought as a strategic project. What do we have as a new issues on the agenda of South American regional integration? Well, first of all, I would say is the creation of a Southern bank, a bank that will replace international financial organizations like the International Monetary Fund or the World Bank, a bank that will finance a development project on a larger perspective and will not impose conditions as the International Monetary Fund was imposing during the 1990s.